We're here again. This is Lindy. We're going to tell some more stories. I wasn't going to talk about Houston again, but some of you weren't around and maybe you didn't go back and watch some of those. And that was just my beginning. But when I was in Houston, after my son went to live with his dad, this girl who had gotten me the job at the architect firm worked for the big wig of one of these big corporations. And she belonged to a men's private club. And women could only be members, or could only go in if management approved them, and they got their name on the list of people who were allowed to go in. Now, any man could go in. It was a men's club, and the men's club, it had a bar, it had a restaurant, it had not entertainment, but it had downstairs where they could play games or whatever, and it was very classy, but it was very expensive for the men to join. No one ever told me how much it was, but it was in the thousands per year that they would have to join. And it gave them privacy. They could have private dinners there. No one could get in to hassle them. For instance, if it was an astronaut, the news people couldn't get in. So they were very protected inside this club. Now, they needed women to go inside this club. And you couldn't go in the club. You couldn't pay any amount as a woman to be a member. You had to, somebody just walked by my door. You had to be invited. It was an invitation only, and your name was put on the allowed females into the club. And you got a badge, you got a little card you carried with you that you would just present, and you could go in. And they liked to have women there, so you could sit at the bar, you could have drinks, and the expectation was you'd meet some people, and the men would have companionship, whatever. If you started up a relationship, or you just sat and had a drink, or just, hey, you want dinner, and I met a lot of high-profile people at this private club. And my girlfriend took me, introduced me to the guy who gives you the card. And he approved me and gave me a card. So I could go in for free anytime I wanted. And all my drinks were paid for. I never had to pay for anything when I went in. Just to have females there. So, a certain type of female. So, I went in, and I met a lot of interesting people. I met some of the astronauts. You wanted to ask me who? I can't remember. I sat beside one and his wife, and I started asking him something about... I was with some very wealthy man. I can't remember. He inherited some railroads or something. I don't know. Some of these people, I just saw them once, had dinner. Hey, will you have dinner with us? So I have a companion for this dinner. They're bringing their wives or whatever. And so then I would sit down and have nice dinners, just to be there. There was no expectation. Oh, some of the times, they think they were. But, so, I wish I could remember his name. And I can't. His wife was on the other side of him, and I was talking to his wife at first. And I'm kind of ashamed because I can't remember, because they were so famous. But, see, I was against that program. I thought they were wasting our money, putting people in the sky. And so I said something to him about, oh, you went up into the sky. How do you feel? Or something stupid, And he goes, well, I really just don't discuss it, He says, I talk about it all the time. I'm always interviewed. I'd rather not discuss it. And I said, fine with me, because I didn't think you should go anyway. I mean, it was just stupid. I was really, if I didn't like something, I just didn't like it. And I thought they wasted our money, but I was totally wrong, because we have phones now, satellites. So I was totally wrong. I thought it was a waste of American money, and it wasn't. I was wrong during that. But anyway, And this was in the 70s. So, you know, he had this. When he flew in the 60s. You know, I can't tell you who it was. There were two of them, and I can't tell you either one. But those were the kinds of dinners that I went to. And one night, I will tell you about something I did meet very special. I mean, supposedly I met Parker Stevenson, and I dated him for a few weeks. Supposedly, the guy said he was Parker Stevenson, and then when I told him I really wasn't interested in any kind of relationship, then he said he wasn't. Who knows? But he was a problem. Anyway, so I met someone named Zolly. And Zolly was from South Africa. Zolly had a huge business in South Africa. He had where they made purses. And these purses were shipped all over the world. They were from a hippo. I still have some. He gave me a hippo purse and an elephant purse and something. I still have them. But anyway, because they last forever. Forever. But I met Zolly. I did not like this man. Okay. He was short, he was bald, and he had a horrible toupee on. And I didn't like the toupee. He was very sweet and he was very kind. And he bought me a drink, and I said, I really am not interested. And he just would not leave me alone. And he knew I was with my girlfriend because we always came together, we always left together. So he went to her and conned her into, because I told her, she came and talked to me, and I said, no, I don't want to have anything to do with him. He's a very pushy man. I don't want to have anything to do with him. He's very pushy. And he just was just demanding, you got, and I just kept moving away from him, So we go home, and she said, well, let's get in this car. I have a ride for us. And I said, okay. And it was a chauffeured car. I said, oh, we're going to get in the chauffeured car. And it had dark windows, so you couldn't see who was in it. And she was behind me, and when they opened the door, there he was, Zolly. And I'm like, oh, no. And she shoved me into the car. She got in beside me, and I'm sitting beside Zolly. Oh, my goodness. Zolly turned out to be really, we dated for about a year till I found out he was married. And, but Zolly flew me to London. He flew me and my son to Disneyland. We just went all over New York. I have photographs of that. And he was a very kind, very sweet, very loving person. And we dated, like I said, for about a year and a half. And then I found out he had a wife, and it just was wrong. And I just wouldn't do it. But at first I didn't know it, and we had a great time. And going to London was an experience. In the 70s, the people in England didn't like us. And I was called Stupid American. We went over a Christmas holiday, and we went down where the trains are, and I wanted to take their rides because they were famous for that in London. And I went to the tower and saw the jewels, crown jewels, and the armor, and we just went all over and did all kinds of museums and stuff like that. And but if I got in a taxi and I would say something to the man who's driving, the taxi driver, he would pretend he didn't understand what I say. And then Zolly would say it. Zolly had a really thick accent. And they would, oh, yeah, okay. Zolly just said the same thing I did. And one taxi driver said, you're just stupid Americans. Don't you know how to speak English? And then when we went downstairs to the trains, it was over Christmas, and Zolly and I were looking at the tracks, and I just turned to one of the conductors or whatever you call them, and I said, I don't understand the map. We want to get from here to so-and-so. Well, you stupid Americans, can't you even... I was called a stupid American so many times, I decided to stop talking, and I just let Zolly do all the talking. But one day, Zolly got so mad at me. Zolly was 10 years older than me. I was 30 and Zolly was 40. And he looked a lot older, you know. And I looked very young. I was still being carded at 30. So one day we see a bobby. And I have a picture of me and the bobby. But I said, Zolly, can I have my picture taken? Will you take our picture with me and with the bobby in front of this huge famous statue? I'll dig that picture out. Anyway, so Zolly said, sure. So as Zolly and I are walking up, and the guy goes, oh, yeah, you can take my picture. He was just as cute as he could be. And he was about my age. You know, I'd say he was in his 30s. And as we're walking up to the fountain, and Zolly's starting to walk away, he goes, would your dad mind if I took you out to dinner tonight? And I went, oh, that's not my dad. That's my boyfriend. He goes, are you kidding me? Really? That old man? And Zolly turns around, and we've had our picture taken, and Zolly comes up to me and he goes, how dare you get so fresh with this woman, you know? And so he's like fighting with the bobby for making all these statements to me. I'm her boyfriend. I'm not. Oh my goodness. So anyway, we had a major fight over that because it was so silly. I was with him, and the bobby was just flirting, you know, and I didn't take him up on it. But Zolly just was mad all over I think that was we only had like 2 days left. And he was just mad all over. So, had a big fight over that. But we still went to Disneyland. My son loved it. I have pictures of my son and Zolly in Disneyland. And he was a real sweet character. He really was. But he was married. Of course, you know, I date somebody who's married. And I'm sure many of those men were married. And you just didn't want to be involved with them, you know. They were either spoiled, like this one guy who kept telling me he inherited a railroad and he was from the big railroad family, whatever. I don't want to get into names because I don't remember, you know. I just remember all these things they're saying to me, you know. He was horrible. He treated the waiters he embarrassed everyone. He treated the waiters and waitresses terrible. He'd yell at them. His soup wasn't warm enough. His steak wasn't done enough. I mean, he was just horrendous. And he was just so stuck up on himself and how much money he had. And that's what he would talk about. Money, money, money. You know, I've got this and yeah, that. And I own part of the phone company and blah, 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 blah. And so I didn't see him but maybe twice. You know, I had that one dinner and then he asked me out again. And I said, okay, I'll give him one more chance. He was just as rude the second time I ate with him as to the waiters as he was the first time. And I never went out with him again. I just can't take it. You know, he was just outrageous, and he was very embarrassing to me to treat people like that. So, you know, those are just some of the experiences. I don't know if I made sense with this story or not. Honestly, I mean, it was such a strange time. I was meeting so many famous people and wealthy people and just, you know, well-known people that I couldn't keep. I mean, I met one of the football team's coach. He was really famous at the time. And he dated a lot of the girls there at the club. And he was not married. He was divorced. But one day, one of the girls introduced me to him, and he goes, well, how old are you? And I said, I forget. I think I said I was 28 or 29. He goes, okay, well, usually I only date women. Now, mind you, he's like in his 50s. He said, I only date women that are under 25. You have a kid? Yes, I do. Oh, I don't date women who have children. I just don't do it. I could never take you out. And I said, well, I didn't ask you to. They just introduced me to you. I don't even know what you're talking about. How rude. You know, I mean, baseball players and football players. I mean, just went on. And it was, I don't know that they have those exclusive men clubs anymore. But that was the time that they had the bunny club. What was it? You know, with the bunny girls? No, see, I'm so stupid. Just his name was on my, he had the magazine and everything. Anything. That was the time. And so they had a lot of private men's clubs that were very expensive to be a member. You had to have a lot of money to be a member. You had to be very famous, one or the other. So I thought I'd talk to you about that. That's just a snippet of what went on at that time. Maybe I'll remember more, but I'm glad I don't remember names because it really wasn't important. So I'll talk to you next time. You have a great day. Thanks for watching. Camo.